number one homework is to decolonize our minds every day. Even somebody like me who thinks she's aware can bump up against something that comes out of the colonization period, right? Because, as Dr. Joy Degree says, that trauma has been put in our cells, okay? I want to give you my most shameful example of it. I must have been 12 or 13 years old. I'm my mama's right hand in Louisiana. I've got like 6 or 7 boys and girls who are our children, my mother's children. I'm in charge of them while my mama is at work, working for $35 a week in a restaurant in New Orleans. I'm talking late 50s, early 60s now, right? And so I'm her right hand, taking care, no childhood, no, there's no such thing, right? You know, I've been a grown woman since I was about 10 as mama's right hand, okay? And my little brother, Ibaye, he's an ancestor now, would wake me up, I want some water. And I give him a glass of water and he drink it and we both go back to bed. And an hour passed and he wake me up, I want some water. I want some water, I want some water. And back then you got your milk in a glass container, right? And one night, he woke me up one time too many, right? And I got 8 milk bottles and I filled them with water. And I sat him down at the table and I got the strap. And I said, drink it. Drink all of it. And if you ever ask me for water again, I'm gonna whip your ass. And my brother sat there and he drank as much of that water as he possibly could, right? Now I know I could have killed him with that. That could have killed him, right? But I thought that what I was doing, I didn't even think about that. That was my way to get him to stop bugging me about drinking water. Some years later, I'm reading the life and times of Frederick Douglass. And Frederick Douglass tells me how on Sundays the slave masters gave them cornbread and a little barrel of syrup. And you're supposed to, sop the cornbread in the syrup. And there was one Sunday when he dared to ask for more syrup. And the man brought him 4 little barrels of sugarcane syrup and got a whip. And he said, drink it, nigga. And if you don't drink it all, I'm gonna whip your ass. Don't ever ask me for more than I'm willing to give you. What's the difference between what he did and what I did? Where did I get the idea that that was the way to handle that, But if you were moving in an ecosystem of oppression, it's like something that rains down on you and soaks into your skin and you act it out without realizing it, okay? So when I run into some of these young gang boys who are doing drive-by shooting and killing other black kids, I say, are you the overseer's great-grandson? You need to ask yourself, why is that there? And why is it reinforced by television and radio and music and so on and so forth? We must get a hold of our young people and reinstate the rites of passage so that they can go from one stage of development to the next. I especially want to say that all the evidence points to black women, but especially black women, being the ones who can save the world. Y'all are clear about that, right? You didn't want that homework, but it's yours. Okay? And of late, the readings that have been coming in have said, we got to do something about our men. We got to do something about our boys, okay? So I'm looking for the men who can do rites of passage with our boys and teach them a different definition of manhood. You know, reinstate what the functionality, the proper use of testosterone, what it really is, okay? Two things about that. There's an organization called the National Compadres Network, the National Compadres Network, and it is a group of black and brown men who have created an 11-point platform for the indigenous definition of manhood. It ain't got nothing to do with how many cars you got or how many women you done got pregnant. Take a look at that. Take a real look at that, okay? And take a look at how many of our boys who are in trouble because they don't have a positive image of manhood. You know, that is really, really important. The decolonizing process can be very, very painful, but we have to be diligent. We have to call it every time we see it. We have to ask that our eyes be open so that we can recognize it, you know. We have to decolonize our thinking, and we have to decolonize the laws that rule our lives, because it keeps sending you to the trauma default, okay? One of the things that I'm a part of is the Mother Earth delegation of indigenous nations, and we're challenging the Pope to reverse the papal bull that is the doctrine of discovery. The doctrine of discovery said that as long you could go into anybody's culture, take their land, rape their women, steal their gold, and pillage, as long as you were doing it to convert them to Christianity. The Vatican Library, okay, is the cave of the biggest thieves in the world. If the Vatican ever gave up the shit it has stolen, it would be homeless. It would be in a tent under the freeway, like so many of our people, okay? And so we are asking that that papal bull be reversed. You know why there's great resistance to it? Because they would have to return all the gold, all the sacred scrolls, all the artifacts. The church would have to pay reparations to everybody on the planet. Okay? And I need you to know that when the question came up to U.S. Congress, they voted against it. Because if we reverse that papal bull, guess what? The United States owes Native Americans, black people, and Asians reparations that would bankrupt this sucker. Okay, so that's what you're up against. That is what you're up against. I am happy to say that there are more people, especially settler descendants, who are coming to understand that repair and no repeat of harm is the road to rehumanizing all of us. Okay? Everybody take a deep breath. I got about 30 minutes, and I want to leave time for questions. In addition to decolonizing, we have to re-indigenize our spirituality. We have to get back to seeing heaven and earth as sacred, seeing that we have a natural relationship to it, okay? And I'm pleased to say that I'm a member of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, which spends its time taking what they called old wives' tales and subjecting it to scientific scrutiny to prove our ancestors knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing, okay? Every tradition in the world, especially the indigenous ones, talk to you about spiritual baths. You see women bathing in the ocean or in the river, or there's holy water over here. Water, y'all. Water is sacred to everybody, right? Water is sacred to everybody. 75% of the planet is water, 90% of our body is water. Water cleans. What is amazing is, he's an ancestor now, but there was an Asian doctor named Matsuro Emoto, Dr. Matsuro Emoto, and he wrote a book called Messages from Water, okay? And what he did was he took molecules, he took drops of water and put it under a microscope and took pictures of it. And then he had the water, he had people to talk to the water. And then he put it under the microscope again, and you could see that the molecules of the water had changed in response to us, what we have to say. There have been a number of experiments done. Bernard Grad in Canada had 3 pots with corn seed from the same corn, same soil, same place, right? He had 3 classes of people to talk to the water and plant the seeds. He had people who were spiritually grounded. He had people who believed in nothing spiritual, and he had people who psychiatrists had listed as psychotic, right? And he had those 3 groups of people to talk to the water and water the same seed in the same soil. And guess what? The most productive plant was that watered by spiritual people. Guess what was next? The people who were called psychotic, their plants grew better than those who believed in nothing. It's better to be crazy, and maybe them people ain't crazy. Okay? Maybe they're tuned into spirit, where that third group refuses to acknowledge, okay? So I'm telling you, spiritual bath is revolutionary. Spiritual bath will get us back to where we were before conquest came in and separated us from everything that we know. I also want to say, perhaps you now see, we use the term BIPOC, Black Indigenous People of Color, okay? In the early 90s, when I first joined the Mother Earth delegation of indigenous nations, the woman who organized that was told by the Department of the Interior that I could not be a part of them because African Americans were indigenous to nowhere. Supposedly, we were not indigenous people. And she said, bullshit, I'm including her anyway, because I don't see what you're saying, right? And so that they caused a great division where there was black people, and we were supposed to be separated from Native Americans, okay? And that lasted for a little while until somebody said, well, what is the definition of indigenous? What is the definition of indigenous? You know, it's people who have a primal relationship to the land that they are on. You know, if you have a primal relationship to the land, you are indigenous to the land. And I maintain that black people are indigenous to planet Earth because every 2-legged sumbitch walking this planet came from between my black legs. And I will say that to anybody, anytime, over and over again, okay? So then they had to put externals on it, and they came up with the definition. Well, if a people have lived on a piece of land for 500 years, that means they're indigenous. What's wrong with that definition? it turns the Boers of South Africa, the white invaders, into indigenous people. Check that. There's always a trick. You always have to watch out for where the trick is, okay? Now, if there's somebody whose ancestry is Boer, and they have come to South Africa, and they have come to love the land, and they have come to love the people, and they live like the people, I'll call them indigenous, right? But I want you to know that there was a fight for us to get black indigenous people of color. So when you see that term, I want you to know what's being said, right? There was a struggle for us to be considered indigenous. It's really interesting. You're always having to deal with this kind of stuff. The other thing I want to say before I turn it over to questions and answers is when it comes to our diaspora, I can say with authority that what we know as Ifa, as Afa, is the father of all the other traditions. Ifa, Afa is the father of Lokumi, of Vodun, of Candomblé, of Kumina, of, whatever you name, that's daddy. Okay? And I will go even further to say that if you're looking at Old Testament and they're talking about cutting the future in the sand, or if they're talking about reading the entrails of the sacrificial animal, the basis of that is Ifa. Ifa reaches from the Mediterranean all the way down to the tip of Africa where they read bones. Okay, I'm telling y'all, this is true. Everything else comes under, is crawling around in the armpit of Ifa. Okay? All of that. And so there is no need for disunity among us. There's no need for disunity among us. There is a need for I try to say this, we make cultural notations on universal principles. There's such a thing as universal principles, and there's a way that each culture interprets it according to where they were on Earth and what the planet said to them, and then what is the collective history of those people. Ancestor reverence, nature worship, this is our way back to humanity. This is our way back to humanity. So I'm trying to see if there's anything. Oh, I know what I wanted to say to y'all here, because you all are, I'm not going to preach to the choir. Y'all already know a lot of what I was going to talk about. But let's talk for a minute about what I've learned about guidance. Oh my God. Sometimes we pray for guidance, and because of past conditioning, you expect a cute little cherub with rosy cheeks and wings to come down and say, "Oh, Tish, this is what you should do, darling." That ain't what I've experienced, okay? I have experienced guidance in 3 ways. The first one is direction, okay? I want y'all to know that sitting in this audience, Baba Obafemi, is one of, number 1, of 4 people in this world that I allow to read me. Of all the people I know, of all the Babalawos I know, I don't mess with the Boogaloos. I ain't got no time for them, okay? I really don't. I'm on an assignment, and I ain't got no time for the bullshit, right? Okay. So I go to Baba humbly. That's the first thing. You go humbly, ready to receive the information that is coming for you. You speak to the oracle, you ask for guidance. The Odu falls, the Ebo is marked. Do the Ebo. Follow the directions, right? Follow up. I tell people all the time, you want to be my godchild? I am a homework bitch. You don't do your homework, I don't want to see you. The oracle tell you what to do and you don't do it, hey. Yeah, don't suck up my energy. Your homework is how you negotiate your life with existence, right? And unfortunately, we've gone from being illegal to being very, very popular, you know, where people are doing ocha a la TikTok. Uh-huh. You know what I'm saying? Don't bother me with that. I'm too old for that shit, okay? You know, I only want to talk to people who are seriously working with spirit to run their life. That's it, okay? So there's direction. Baba says, this is what Oshun wants you to do, and if I'm smart, I will follow direction. Now, we have a word called wahala, okay? And people translate that as confusion, right? But when I crawl inside of wahala, I find two things: an unfortunate combination of ignorance and arrogance. Somebody who's ignorant, but who is humble enough to learn, can come out of ignorance. But somebody who is ignorant and arrogant enough to think that they already know will remain in confusion, right? And with me, you got 3 times to come out of confusion. The first time I tell you, the second time I check to see how much homework you've done, the third time it's over. That's it. Otherwise, you like a what are them animals in a tread on a wheel? We ain't got time for that. We ain't got time for that. The earth is kicking our butts, okay? So you want direction. That's my favorite one. Tell me what to do, I'll do it, I'll see the result. Now here's the one that gets on my nerves. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where something ugly is going on? You're the only one who can see it. You're the only one who knows what to do, and it's got to be done. Come on. How many of you have ever found yourself in that situation? Okay? That's called entrapment. Spirit done entrapped you. You've been recruited. When it's least expected, you're elected. You're the star today. Smile. This is your gig, Teish. Oh, well, you know, the sister called wanting you to be part of the performance, but you know she finna lose her mind, so you need to tell her that that ain't what it's about. Why me? Right? Because you know. Can't I just mind my own business? No, if you don't tell her, she gonna die. Now I gotta tell her. Now, there's a chance she gonna be mad at me because I'm stuck my nose in her business, right? Yaya told me don't run around telling people what you know, but if they ask you, ask them if they want the truth, and if they say yes, tell them, no matter what the consequences is. You know how much trouble that gets me in? One of the slick ways is I say, well, if I don't ask them if they want the truth, then maybe it's all right for me to lie. And she said, no, you have to tell them. You know, When you find yourself in that situation, I can say two things. Put yourself in a protective bubble, do what you got to do, and know that when it's unexpected, you're going to get a reward for that. Doing the right thing because it is the right thing to do buys you puppy chips with Orisha. I know it does with me and Oshun. Oshun will say, girl, didn't I tell you to do such and such a thing? And I go, yes, ma'am. And then out of the blue, later on, somebody does something wonderful for me. So it's not in vain and it's not tit for tat, right? But when you find yourself in a situation where you are the only person who can bring relief, who can bring insight, who can solve the problem, and Spirit is telling you to do it, do it. You may feel entrapped, but do it. Okay. Here's the one I can't stand. Oh, Bafemi done told me I need to do such and such a thing. And I'm saying, well, Baba could have had that wrong. He ain't never been wrong before, but he could be wrong this time because I just don't feel like it, honey. I know what he said is right, and I know how to do it, but Lord, I just don't feel like it because I want to go over. And she slaps my face and knocks my head that direction, and I go, oh, there it is. It's called obstruction. Have you ever tried to do something and no matter what you do, it keep failing? It just keep failing and it just keep failing. And then one day something happened and you go, wow, ooh, that hurt. Oh, there it is. Try not to get to that third stage. Okay? And because we grew up in the West, where there's talk about your free will, let me give you a real secret. Once you turn something over to Spirit, right? Be real clear what you're saying to Spirit. Say it in detail, lay it all out. And the last line is this or something better according to your wise judgment, Oshun. Because she knows better than me in everything. She can see better than me in everything. But once you hand it over to Spirit, you can forget that free will shit. Because now something has been put in motion. And what you ask for is coming. And it may not be coming the way you want it to come, but it's coming if it's for you. Don't be asking for stuff that ain't on your path of light and destiny. Don't be mimicking nobody else. Ask for your own highest good and the good of all parties involved, and then watch and see what's happening.